Every empire believes its money will last forever. The Romans thought their silver denarius would rule eternity. The British trusted the pound sterling like a religion. And today, Americans believe the dollar is unshakable. But history whispers a dangerous truth. Every dominant currency in history has died the same way, following 6 repeating stages. 4 currencies have already fallen. The US dollar is now deep into stage 4, and if history is right, the next 2 stages could change the world forever. Every great currency's story begins with power, then comes trust, expansion, excess, decline, and collapse. 6 stages, like 6 acts of a tragedy. Stage 1 begins when a nation gains strength, wealth, and credibility. Its money becomes the world's safe haven. But the same fame that builds a currency also sows the seeds of its downfall. Because power invites greed, and greed always forgets time's warning. The story begins with Rome. The denarius, a small silver coin, once symbolized strength, discipline, and unity. Soldiers were paid in denarii, merchants trusted it across continents, and nations bowed to Rome's economic might. But as Rome grew rich, wars multiplied. To fund them, the emperors began mixing base metals into silver, diluting its purity. What started as 95% silver became barely 5%. The denarius still looked the same, but inside, it was hollow. Once trust fades, inflation begins its slow burn. Prices rise, savings shrink, and the people begin to sense the truth. The currency that built the empire starts feeding on it. Rome's markets collapsed. Soldiers demanded more pay. Bread riots filled the streets. By the 3rd century, the denarius was a ghost, shiny on the outside, worthless inside. Rome's money died long before its empire did. Centuries later, Spain rose. The real de a ocho, the silver piece of 8, became the world's first truly global currency. It sailed from the mines of Bolivia to the ports of China. Every empire wanted Spanish silver. But easy wealth is a curse. Spain printed more, spent more, and borrowed even more. When the silver mines slowed, the empire had already drowned in debt. The first stage of greatness had turned into the 5th, decline. This is the stage where every empire lies to itself. Leaders insist the money is strong, central banks intervene, debts grow, taxes rise. Spain, rich beyond measure, went bankrupt 4 times in a single century. The silver coin that ruled oceans became a relic, and when trust died, Spain's empire went with it. Then came the British. The pound sterling became the currency of the industrial age, the heartbeat of global trade. From India to Canada, every deal, every ship, every contract ran through London. The Bank of England was the world's vault. The sun never set on the British pound, but the same empire that expanded through trade began fighting wars it could not afford. From World War I to II. By 1945, Britain had won the war but lost its wealth. When the world loses faith, replacement begins. The US dollar took the pound's throne at Bretton Woods in 1944. Overnight, London's crown shifted to Washington. Every fallen empire leaves behind its ghost, a lesson unlearned. The pound still exists today, but its soul is gone. The dollar began its reign with trust, backed by gold, guided by industry, and protected by the mightiest military on earth. It was stability in paper form. After World War II, nations stored their wealth in dollars. Oil was traded in dollars. The world revolved around green ink and American confidence. Stage 1 was complete. Global trust had crowned a new king. The dollar powered globalization. The world's banks, trade routes, and investments became dollar-centric. America could print what others had to earn. Prosperity was everywhere. Cars, homes, credit cards. The American dream was mass-produced. But like every empire before, expansion hid excess. In 1971, President Nixon made a fateful move, ending the dollar's link to gold. For the first time in history, the world's currency was backed by nothing but trust. The party continued, interest rates, credit, and spending soared, but the foundation had cracked. Once money loses anchor, it drifts wherever politics push it. Stage 4, the point of no return. Governments begin printing to pay debts. Banks expand credit endlessly. Inflation becomes normal. The system survives on promises. Today, the US debt is over $34 trillion. The dollar is no longer a store of value. It's a symbol of obligation. And history tells us every currency that reached this stage never came back. Unlike Spain's silver or Rome's metal, today's money isn't even tangible, it's digital, created by keystrokes. When money becomes infinite, value becomes imaginary. The markets still shine, but the wealth is air. The illusion feels real until the curtain falls. Every empire defends its currency in denial. Interest rates rise. Spending is cut. Enemies are blamed. Confidence campaigns begin. The Roman emperors minted more silver. Spain taxed its colonies. Britain borrowed from America. The US Federal Reserve raises rates and prints more. History repeats, only the actors change. Collapse isn't sudden, it's a slow leak that ends in a flood. One day trade agreements shift, oil is priced in other currencies, and global trust quietly exits the room. A new system rises. Maybe it's digital, maybe it's multipolar, but it won't be the dollar we know today. When a currency dies, it's not just economics, it's identity. The Roman farmer, the Spanish merchant, the British banker, each watched their lifetime savings vanish into paper dust. It's not wealth that dies, it's trust. And trust once lost never returns the same. 4 currencies, 4 empires, 1 repeating pattern. Rome's denarius, Spain's real, Britain's pound, all followed the same 6 stages. The dollar stands now at stage 4, too powerful to imagine falling, yet too fragile to escape its cycle. Every collapse feels impossible until it happens. People once said Rome would never fall. They said gold was endless. They said the pound was eternal. And now, they say the same of the dollar. But history doesn't repeat by accident. It rhymes by design. Stage 5 and 6 aren't about destruction. They're about reset. A new system always follows, maybe backed by energy, maybe blockchain, or something humanity hasn't imagined yet. But one truth remains. No currency stays king forever. The 6 stages aren't just about money, they're about human nature. Greed, pride, denial, and hope. They drive empires to rise and force them to fall. The dollar is still alive, but history's clock is ticking. And when the 6th stage arrives, it won't announce itself. It'll already be here.